Welcome to the Anno distillery. This is the holding area of the still house where we hold our 10 or so different distillates that we store, which forms part of our blends that we make. So we have several IBCs here, some of them with our neutral grain spirit, which is a wheat-based spirit, which we use as a base for all of our products, as well as different intermediate botanical blends which come together to form our different products. So we store things in bulk like this, and we blend them in our 1500 litre agitated blend tank to my left, and then after the final blending and dilution we can transfer into a bottling vessel to take through next door to be put into bottles. The distillates we produce are produced on Patience, which is our 300 litre copper pot still over here. So, as I said, Patience is a 300 litre copper pot still manufactured by Christian Karl in Germany. 300 litres is the nominal capacity, which fills up to about the top of the manway door. You can get more in there, but generally speaking, the extra head space adds to the quality of the product. It keeps it consistent and adds a bit of passive reflux. Patience is controlled on our control panel here. She has a water jacket which is controlled by the PID controller to the left. This allows us to choose a set point which is appropriate to transfer the correct amount of heat. That will really depend on the product we're making, how far along the distillation we are, and what the air pressure is. Today, the air pressure is actually quite high, so we're distilling at about 101 degrees, which is needed to give it that oomph to get the distillate over. The other sensors are for our reference, really. While the temperature control is automatic, everything else is very manual, and we have to really get a feel for what the different sensors are telling us and what that means, what that translates to with what's going on inside a Patience. That will advise us when we need to do things like change the temperature, perhaps make cuts and that kind of thing. She has 6 heating elements going up to 5500 watts, so it's an electrically heated water jacket as opposed to a steam water jacket, which transfers the heat. Being a water jacket, it's a much more gentle heat, so it reduces the risk of scorching because we've got heavy botanical loads in there sometimes. And that's aided by the agitator, which is constantly keeping it spinning. That again stops any scorching, overheating, and generally gives it a lovely even heat. So we load our hard botanicals into the pots. So these are things like the juniper, the barks, the woods, that kind of thing. And anything else where we want that vigorous boiling to get the extraction. Anything else goes into our botanicals basket, which is over here. So the vapor will infuse with the products we put in there. So that's where we put some of our softer botanicals, flowers, more delicate flavors that don't stand up to boiling because you can eventually get these cooked flavors. So a lot of our local Kentish botanicals, things like the hops, the samphire, the elderflower, are all going into the botanicals basket. Patience is very versatile. We can configure in lots of different ways depending on the product we're making. So today we're actually bypassing the botanicals basket and the rectification column. But if we were making Kent Dry, we use all of them. So we would use the botanicals basket and the rectification column. So the different plates on the column give us essentially better separation. It's basically like doing multiple distillations. Generally, it depends on the product you're making as to whether or not that's a good or bad thing. With Kent Dry, it really adds to the smoothness, the lightness and the freshness of the product, and that's why we like to use it. What we're distilling today is the base for our pink gin, and this includes a lot of hard botanicals and spices which come over better at a lower ABV and benefit more from this variable alcohol content that will happen when you're bypassing the column. If we use the column, and during the development of that product, we found that actually using the column really killed a lot of the flavors that we wanted to collect. So after After the rectification column, we come to the final product condenser, which is fairly straightforward. It just knocks the vapor back down to a liquid, and we can collect it here. So we've got our distiller's parrot, which we use, and this is where we'll sample the product as it comes out. So the hydrometer floats here and gives us an indication of the current ABV. This gives us a rough idea on making cuts, but really the final decision comes down to taste. So we'll stand here and we'll sample. You can taste and you can smell. You can take some off and dilute it with water if you like, but this is what advises us, and this is really how we make those decisions on the cuts, and can be a very critical decision on the quality of the product. So a heart cut we collect into a collection vessel. In this case, we're using an IBC. We also use drums or spirit containers depending on the volume we're collecting. We're running in a campaign, so we're going to be doing multiple distillations collecting into the same vessel, known as vatting. So that's why we're using a larger vessel to collect into. So that's patience.